Fellas, say goodbye to Chuck Sherman the boy. I am now a man. I highly recommend you join the club. We are doing the wild thing all night.
Acid house music.
Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Sherm.
Sherman, I cooked all this food. Is that all you gonna eat?
General Sherman realized and understood the importance of house music.
So, do you know anything about techno?
No.
Listen.
Get it on.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to another brand new episode of Sherm in the Booth. Today is Wednesday, October 28th, 2020. This is episode 133, and it is a very, very special episode, guys. It features one of my oldest friends. He goes by the name of Glded, and you might remember I had him on the show a few years ago, but a lot has transpired in between. And he's got millions of plays to his name now, an incredible brand that he's been building. And today we're here to discuss his upcoming album. Now, I of course wanted to ask him how he's been keeping busy since March and his general outlook on the current state of the music industry from a creator's perspective. There are so many artists out there right now that are struggling to find their creative juices, and it was awesome to hear that Glded has been pushing through. This is someone that truly loves the music making process, and although the future is unpredictable and we don't know when live shows are going to be in the picture again, Glded continues to find inspiration and create new music. Now, he has already released 2 singles, Waiting Up and Paine, ahead of his upcoming album, just to give us a taste of what's to come. And I wanted to get the full story for what we've already heard so far in both of those tracks. The main topic of conversation was, of course, his new album, titled Moraine, and it's coming out on November 11th. And of course, the main topic of conversation was his new album, titled Moraine. Now, Glded is someone who's extremely inspired by the outdoors and is a hiker and a backpacker himself. And it was really, really cool to hear about the inspirations and parallels he drew between the music and his creative process, the timeline, and everything else in between. This is going to be a really, really special album, guys. Moraine will be out November 11th, and he also has a music video that's coming out with us as well. He wouldn't tell me much about it, but it seemed really cool, and he told us a little bit behind the scenes on where they shot it, how they shot it, and what's to come. I want to take this moment to acknowledge Glded once again on his success as an artist. This is someone that I've always believed to be truly, truly talented, and it's been incredible watching his journey so far. It was awesome to sit down and talk to him one-on-one about the inspirations behind this album and how excited he is to release it. I absolutely cannot wait to hear it, my friend. Let's get into it right now, guys, so you can hear about the album for yourself. This is episode 133 with Glded. Mr. Ben Harper, aka Glded. Welcome to the new and improved version of Sherm in the Booth, man. You're the first person to get the full setup with the new cameras. We still have some things on the way, but I gotta say, there's not a lot of other people I'd rather do it with, man. So cheers to you.
I appreciate that, man.
Absolutely.
So glad to be here.
Me too, man. You know, I gotta tell the people real quick, you showed up on a bicycle. So a lot of this guy's music involves earthliness and giving back to the world, and the fact that you ride a bicycle around the city, I think just really wraps everything together.
Mm-hmm.
Extra large too, right?
It's so huge.
It's huge.
When I stand up on this bike, I'm like 7 feet tall.
Yeah. Dude, and it's been so funny giving you these little tiny shot glasses or these little tiny beers and it just looking gigantic.
I know.
Oh my gosh. For those that don't know, I've known you for a very long time. One of my oldest friends. And I just want to start off by saying it has just been incredible watching this journey all the way from Danny, California, and in what grade was that? 7th grade?
8th grade.
Eagle grade.
Idol.
8th grade Eagle Idol.
Yeah.
This guy played in a Red Hot Chili Peppers cover band with Mark Edlund, who still does some help with your tracks.
That's
and
right.
It's just incredible to see you now. Hundreds of thousands of monthly listeners on Spotify, over 180,000 a month. You got millions of plays to your name, man. You're building this incredible brand. And to be sitting here with you today, you know, you are just this evolved person to Ben Harper, and I'm really, really proud of you.
Thank you very much, and I'm so glad to be here too. You know, I've watched Sherm in the Booth progress over the last several years.
Yeah.
And it's amazing to see the progress and see the way it's grown and just the breadth of people that you've been able to talk to and connect with. Really fascinating and it's an honor to be here as well.
I appreciate it, man. I could have sworn I had you on twice before. I guess it's been since 2017 since you've been on the show. A lot has happened for the Glded brand since then.
Mm-hmm.
Before we go back in time, I want to ask how you've been recently since the pandemic. Of course, I've been trying to ask every artist I've had on the show what it's been like from a creative perspective. You just got a new home. Congrats on that.
Thank you.
Just saw it. This guy has incredible plants, and also he went to Costco and is a Costco member now too. So it really is a home.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I've decked it out with some good plants.
Uh-huh.
But I've been good. You know, I moved into this place at the beginning of March or so.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a perfect spot for me. It's like 2 bedrooms, so I've got my room in one room and a studio in the other room.
Mm-hmm.
So it's been a great place to spend some time.
Yeah.
It's also great living alone now. I was living with some roommates for a while,
Yep.
so that kind of got in the way sometimes of
Right.
Of making music. But it's super good to have my own space and set it up exactly the way I want it.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's been really nice. You know, all things considered, obviously there's been like a lot of isolation involved therein, but
Sure.
I still have had, you know, creatively at least, like no issues
That's good.
making music, or, you know, I think my process is I just sit down to work
Mm-hmm.
every day, and that's how I find the inspiration. You know, I'm not. It hasn't impacted my ability to find inspiration or anything like that. In fact, it's probably just augmented the workflow.
Yeah.
And having so much time at home and so much time at my studio to be able to dedicate to making new music.
Yeah, of course. And you do have a great setup, man. And props to you for staying creative. You know, it's kind of been, I can't believe it's already been about 7-8 months really since, you know, the world has changed, right? And it really does say a lot about your true love for the music. I think a lot of people have been kind of comparing it to maybe a wet rag, the music industry, right? And there's a lot of people that are hanging on that are big beads of water, and there are people that are actually made up of the fibers of the rag. And to me, you are a core fiber because you are in this for the longevity. You are in this for the true love of music. And a lot of those people that are in for the wrong reasons, chasing clout, chasing fame, whatever it might be, right? They're sitting in their room, they're sitting in their apartment trying to make music, and it's not inspiring for them. And I'm not trying to come at those sort of people because I've certainly had my own creative obstacles in that regard. Without live shows, of course, right? It's tough for a DJ to be like, I want to make a club hit right now.
Mm-hmm.
But for you, your music is timeless. Is doesn't matter when or where. It just passes through, and now you're really, really gaining momentum, man.
Yeah, well, I think it's also like my music or the way that I create is very insular anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So again, it's kind of almost helped to be able to not necessarily have any obligations to go out and do things.
Right.
And just be able to for lack of a better way of phrasing it, to just sit at home and make music, because as you said, I mean, that's what I love to do, and that's what like gets me out of bed every day.
Yeah.
And that's my mission, is to make really great music that people can connect with.
Yeah, of course.
So in that way, you know, I really haven't noticed that much of a change in the way that I create, or you know, the way that I'm viewing it.
Right.
It's largely the same.
Yeah. I think a lot of producers, at least in kind of your realm, right, like trying to envision something, and before you even had success, you were still doing kind of the same thing, right? And my question is, has your process changed over the past couple of years in terms of how you're actually making a track? Are you saving time? Are you using more time on certain songwriting aspects, or kind of what has happened over the past couple of years in regards to that, regardless of what's going on in the world?
Well, I think my process has changed mostly in the way that I approach it on a, the workflow has changed.
Right.
So in my previous records, you know, I would effectively dedicate like a whole Saturday and a whole Sunday and say, I'm going to do nothing today but sit in my studio and make music.
Mm-hmm.
And that process was, although it has yielded some great music that I love and that I'm really proud of,
right, that
process doesn't really work for me anymore. So I've changed my process now to just maximizing the volume of the number of times that I sit down to write music.
Right.
So a lot of my sessions could be 25 minutes or so.
Wow.
Rather than sitting down and saying, okay, I'm only going to work on music for 4 hours.
Right.
Because effectively what happens is you sit down, and after 25 minutes, if you've hit a wall, you don't break across the barrier, or at least I don't really break across that barrier for the rest of the 3 hours that I'm sitting down.
Yeah.
So I end up like despising the process of making music.
Right.
So now I guess I'm much more lighthearted about the process.
A little more lenient on yourself.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And that's great because I can sit down, and if nothing immediately comes to mind that is usable or something that I want on the final track, then I know it's fine, and I can just stop, take a break, get a glass of water, drink some tea, and then I can come back to it later, and the inspiration or the work might be there the next time.
Absolutely. I love that. And that's the perfect example, honestly, right there, because one thing I think is coming to light a lot is health is wealth, particularly mental health is wealth. And I think for a lot of creators out there, that at least is their main source of income, it can be really tough to be creative under pressure, right? And it kind of seems to me like you have, yes, put yourself in situations where you want to finish, where it is your end goal, but it's really good to hear these days you kind of go with the flow. That's awesome.
Definitely. And yeah, like I said, even more so now, like not having pressure on a session to produce produce a hit song.
Yeah.
You know? I think it's just every time. If I can do 25-minute sessions of just writing what I want to write, then I feel that my goals will shine through better, or like my personality will shine through better.
Yeah.
If I'm not banging my head against a wall trying to squeeze something out of a session or a process that can't be done or shouldn't be done.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's made me feel a lot better about the process of creation and what I'm creating.
And I think it's interesting, you've talked to me about it before, after your success of one of your biggest hits, Could Be, right? You were thinking to yourself a lot in the studio, and correct me if I'm wrong, how do I make the next Could Be? Am I putting the pressure? Am I pigeonholing myself into this creative process because that had success? I think that's something a lot of people who have success quickly, or even at all, think, right? Like, is this the formula? Do I need to follow this formula? Have you learned from Could Be and taken certain aspects of it? Or what do you realize or think about when you think about the success of that song early on?
Well, I tried to make it not formulaic at all.
Yeah.
In fact, so it's very hard to articulate because I don't know what about that song makes it more popular than others.
Right. Well said. Nobody knows.
But yeah,
it's good, right? That's all you can say.
So I try not to distill it down to a formula. And in fact, I would say that I try to take the process through which I made Could Be and replicate the method of thinking to other songs.
Right.
So not the production style.
Okay.
Not the types of instruments that I played.
Yeah.
But when I wrote that song, I mean, it was about 4 years ago, and I made it in like the very first iteration of my home studio. So on a laptop.
Yeah.
My bed was 2 feet away. And that song in particular was very, very natural. Like it could be distilled to writing it in like a couple of days is when the formative, the substantial part of the song was created. And by nothing more than putting down like one guitar lick and then singing the main melody motif.
Yeah.
Just a scratch take. And that's the way that all of my songs come to be. Is just literally by messing around, and the accidents or the those melodies, it's almost intangible. Like there's no way that I could think of it.
Yeah.
It's just that's what I felt at the time,
Mm-hmm.
and I captured it, and then thought like I really like the way this sounds, and then going back and honing that melody and and creating a song out of it.
Yep. Love that. Could be had so much success. Of course, Transmissions and yours truly. Canyons, I mean, wild success on your last album. Here we are now, coming up in a few weeks. You've got a new album coming out. Let's talk about the 2 singles you've released, though, Waiting Up and Paine.
Mm-hmm.
We'll start with Waiting Up, since it came out before. You've already racked in 500,000 plays, over 500,000 plays. So, props.
Thank you.
So sick.
Yeah, it's great. I'm really happy with that one.
It's unbelievable, man. Why did you choose for this to be the first single that you shared from the album?
Well, first of all, I just really love the song.
Yeah.
More than, perhaps more than the other ones. It's just different than the other ones. I think it's a non-traditional song, by my standards at least.
I agree. Yep.
It's not a whole lot of instrumentation on the record. And something that I've been really interested in lately is vocoders and vocal processing.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what kind of is the focus of this track.
Yeah.
And heavy vocal processing.
There's atmosphere. Like there's a real it's almost like you can't put a word on it, right? Like I know as a producer, right? Like you have these white noises in the background, right? But it's very gentle, but there is a feeling with it. It's almost like right before I'm about to fall asleep, sort of, right? Like this perfect just effervescent moment for me, man. Like when I listened to it again today with just some good headphones, and I just hear how you dynamically put that together, I'm just more and more impressed with tracks like that don't have let's just call it a beat, right? So it's really, really cool.
Thank you.
Great
I appreciate
work.
it. I love making that one. And that was another track that was just pure experimentation.
Mm-hmm.
There maybe was some kind of beat on it in an earlier iteration.
Mm-hmm.
But just the way that the vocals are affected, and I think I probably stacked 12 vocals or maybe even more on top of each other.
Wow.
All like a different type of
Yeah.
pitch shifter or auto-tune or
Right.
this one plugin called Little Alter Boy, which I
I know
use
how much you
heavily
love
on all my records.
Yeah.
And
Great plugin for any producers that don't know that out there.
Yeah, it's so great.
For
I
everything
love it.
too. Yeah.
Because you can control it with MIDI too.
Yeah.
So pretty much regardless what you sing, you can program it to sing the note that you play on a MIDI keyboard.
That's incredible.
Plus vocoders underneath, so I just went crazy, and a whole bunch of delays on tracks.
Yeah.
On different tracks. So.
It's awesome. I think it's honestly the perfect song to introduce this new album.
Thanks.
And then you just released Paine.
Yeah.
And I got a lot of questions about Paine. Just released on October 7th as a single to follow up. It's something that I find really special for your taste. It's a 5-minute track, and you've only released a few of those, Port and Lantern Road. Now, 5 minutes, in the grand scheme of things, isn't necessarily that long. But for your style of music, certainly is. And in comparison to Port and Lantern Road, it kind of has a pace to it. It
Mm-hmm.
builds up. And I think it's unique in that sense. It continues to build. Tell me about this one.
So I agree with you for the most part. I tend to not like long songs.
Sure.
Just because my music is is so slow and gentle that it's you start looking at your watch, all right, when are we gonna get to the next thing?
Yeah.
Here's some acoustic guitars, in a gentle, cherubic voice.
I love the humility. That's hilarious.
So I try to stay away from long songs, but for this one, the writing of it, I wanted the 3 verses and the 3 choruses. So just the story that it told.
Yeah.
I wanted it to be. It needed 3 verses.
Right.
But typically I like shorter songs a lot.
Yeah,
in the
2.5, 3.5.
Exactly.
Right.
Love those songs. And then also, I was able to work with, as you alluded to earlier, with a percussionist. His name's Mark Edlin.
Yeah.
Fantastically talented percussionist, drummer.
Yeah.
Amazing. And so I was able to work with him and another audio engineer, Nathan Kane, down in Bloomington, Indiana, for a couple days for this record. And Mark just played an amazing part on top of this record, and
Incredible.
And that's what helps like keep the pace going throughout the
It
song.
does.
Because on the previous two records that you mentioned, Port and Lantern Road, they're a little bit more bland. Like there's no percussion or very little percussion, and it's very static throughout the 5 minutes or however long those records are. But Mark really helped build the pace up throughout the song. So then when it comes to finality, it's a little bit more a kick in the pants, other than just like the simple like folk style.
Mark
parts.
is incredibly talented, and
It's
it's so cool. And again, correct me if I'm wrong, but from my understanding, you had the song basically not finished, but you were working on it together, and then you said, "Mark, see what you can do."
Yeah,
I think 1, props to him. 2, props to you for still having room to breathe in a track to do that. I mean, it's incredible. I think Paine, honestly, so far, I'm telling you right now, for the first time, it's my favorite Glded track.
nice.
Really do. It's like there's an energy to it, and a lot of your music has certainly a visceral feeling. But for what I enjoy the most, like this is a great new flavor of Glded that I really, really enjoyed. So I wanted to commend you for that.
Thank you. Yeah, I appreciate it. Again, like Mark is just so good. Like, I think for that record, it was like one take.
Of course.
He's just so
It
good.
sounds like you literally put it in Logic though. Like it's so on beat.
I did.
But like he's like, you can tell like he doesn't have any like. Did you adjust anything?
No, not at all.
Yeah,
Like,
so
no
he's like
quantization at all.
so good at
It's
that.
just so good. So yeah, I had the record, like all the way done.
Yeah.
And then I just took the bounced version of the song, and like
Oh my
you said,
God.
like
That's
said,
crazy.
like what do you think sounds good on top of this? And then
He's like, yeah.
one
you
day
play it.
we made like 3 records. So
Gosh, he's the man. I love that you're still collaborating with old friends too.
yeah.
And I think it's really inspiring too, whether or not people choose to do something with a music career. But there are so many talented musicians out there, like Mark, like our friend Thomas Buchanan, right? That go on to do different things, and Alex Young too. Some people choose a career in music, some people don't. But you never know who's got talent, man. I think that's the coolest thing about being a human to me.
Yeah, totally. Well, and it's like it's amazing how many people that I've worked with are either from Zionsville particularly or just from Indianapolis in general. That are just fantastic musicians.
I know.
The best of the best that I've met so far in my journey.
Totally.
So it's pretty amazing.
Don't judge a book by its cover, right?
Yeah.
I love that, man. Well, let's talk about the new album titled Moraine. Now, I'm going to read the definition, okay? And I'm confident from knowing you that it certainly has a lot to do with it. Moraine, defined as a mass of rocks and sediment carried down and deposited by a glacier, typically as ridges at its edges or extremity. Great definition, like of a word. Like, that's good. Like, there are definitions within definitions.
This is a well-worded definition.
What is the parallel between that definition and your inspiration musically?
Well, I think it has to do with the physicality of like Moraine, what Moraine is, and in the time that I wrote this whole record, I had done a couple backpacking trips in one in Patagonia and one in Iceland.
Yep.
And very eerily similar geology there, or they're big glacier places. So, and that's what moraine is. It's as you said, like a recycling of sediment from the movement of ice.
Right.
So that's that's the physicality of the concept. But then the more that I thought about the physics of that, the more that I learned that it applied to my own situation, my own way of life while I was making the record. And I was as I mentioned earlier, like kind of caught up or maybe preoccupied by routines and habits, and the way, I guess, the impact that those have on corroding or eroding, your personality or your happiness or your health.
Yeah.
So it's both in physicality of Moraine, and that's what I was thinking of when I wrote the record, is these vast landscapes, deep brown rock contrasted with the like laser blue ice. So that's what I was thinking of. So
I knew it was right.
It's vast in scope.
Yeah.
But again, my process is just so insular, and part of making the record, what was so erosive to, my way of life.
Yeah.
Gosh. So
unreal. Now, that Patagonia trip was a while ago.
Yeah.
How long's this timeline been for this album then?
It's been a long timeline.
2 years then.
It's been very long, yeah, about 2 years. So I recorded it largely in 2018, throughout 2018. I usually take quite a long time to record it.
Sure.
Just because all my songs they're so iterative. I never make the final take in like one session.
Never.
Like never.
Yeah.
I mean, we're talking like months of just building and taking away.
Yeah.
And building again and taking away, and then eventually, of course, just saying like, I don't know what else to do, so like I have to do this.
Yeah. Put it to the side, the graveyard, right? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So it probably took, 6 months, and I don't even really keep track of the timelines of how long it takes to record. I just start somewhere and work on the tracks until I've either completely baked them dry and can't use them, or, but more often than not, I have the ability to ascertain like what songs are eventually going to be on the record fairly early in the process. So then I'm able to just work on them incrementally.
Yeah.
Through several month period, and then after it was done, I was working with my team on the best way to roll it out, and that process took a fair amount of time too. Of course, the mixing and mastering process took a little while too.
This is a long time.
Yeah, so it's a long time. It's a long time for this record, but I think it's kind of timely, and I'm really glad that it's coming out. I'm really glad it's coming out now, and that it wasn't. Nothing about it was rushed.
Of course, that's quite the timeline. So and I agree with you, right? Like this feels like the right time. That doesn't happen every time when you release music. In fact, sometimes you never know what time. So I'm glad that like now that it's happening, now that the timeline's done, it's here, November 11th.
Yeah.
Rain, baby.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Yeah. Yeah, it's great because it just so happens, I think the last 3 years I've released a record the same week. And it just like happened. It just happened like the weekend of, like pretty much right before Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
And it just happened that way. Like there's nothing planned about it.
True. Yeah, you're right.
Like the cadence that I've kind of fallen into.
I like that though.
So yeah, I like it too. It's good, and I want to be in the cadence of releasing music on a more regular schedule.
Yeah.
That being said, I'm not going to rush anything out. Like I'm going to wait until I'm absolutely sure that it's exactly the way that I want it. But
yeah,
it is good to be in that situation where I have music that's kind of like ready to go.
Right. Well, I think that's inspiring a lot for a lot of musicians out there too, who, like we said earlier, like feel rushed to get things out because they're on this timeline that no one's really defined. Because how many music careers have we seen in the industry where it either happens like that or it happens like that, right? So, it sounds to me like your advice is just follow your heart, love your music, the rest will follow.
Totally.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's really the only thing you can do. You can't control the market.
No, you can't.
But you can absolutely control the product that you're putting out.
Yeah.
So, maximize the N of great products that you have. And
That's
the way. I mean, that is the only formula there is, really.
Yeah.
Or there, I think that there should be, maybe.
Yeah.
It's like, do your best the maximum amount of times, and something will happen. And that's it.
I think that's good advice, VR. You know, not to get too deep, but of course a lot has happened in life since you really started doing this project. 2017 was the first album, correct? You've been recording music well before then, and in music and loving music, you know, jamming out in basements and playing random shows and doing stuff like that, and here you are now, like I said earlier. How do you feel you've grown maybe as a creator? How have you grown as a person? How have you grown as someone who gives more than they get? Because you do. I just want to tell you that. Like, the music you give to people, I hope that you feel that you're getting something back because of the reactions you get.
Yeah. Thank you. I appreciate that.
You're a giver, man. You are.
Yeah, that's the way I want it to be.
It's not just your good handshakes. God, feels good.
That is a good fit.
Yeah.
But that's the way that I want it. I mean, that's kind of what it is. Like, I have immense fulfillment in the creation of the product.
Mm-hmm.
So that is almost like selfishly internal. Like, I'm doing the best that I can do because that's my mission in life, is to make great music.
Yep.
And then everything thereafter is the beautiful cherry on top, the way that I can share it with other people.
Yep.
So, you know, I largely make the music for my own intrinsic needs and to make it exactly the way that I want it.
That's amazing.
And then, but that being said, it's all with the intention of sharing it and saying, you know, this is who I am. Like, this, for this piece of time, like, this is the best that I can do.
Mm-hmm.
And giving that to people and sharing with them is the equally important but the ancillary part of what I'm doing.
Ancillary. God. Fucking perfect word, man. Amazing. I love that. And I'm so glad that you are, like, self-fulfilled with this stuff, because one thing I think I mentioned in every single episode, I wouldn't really matter to me in the grand scheme of things, and I didn't realize this until a little further on in the podcast process. I don't really care if it's only me, my dad, and you that listen to this, right? Because I genuinely enjoy this process. I genuinely enjoy connecting with my friends, with new friends, with artists, with anyone in music, with anyone who's passionate about what they do. And I realize that I get so much out of this as a human being on earth. Get followers, great. People listen to the podcast, awesome. I'm enjoying this so much, and I enjoy it more and more every single time. So I relate to you on that.
Yeah, totally. I mean, that's what it's all about. It's like, that's what has to get you through life, is these
seriously,
these
it's
types
life.
of things.
Yeah.
Like, and you can't worry about the metrics attached to that.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, it's a binary decision. Like, does this move me?
Yeah.
And then if it moves you forward, then great. And it typically does.
Yeah.
But yeah, that intrinsic fulfillment is like, that's what keeps it going. Like, that is the fire in the engine that keeps it going.
Yeah, I love it, man. So you've been doing some content creation lately behind the scenes. I know you can't tell us much, but you just filmed a music video. Can you at least tell us what part of the city you filmed it in? Who got involved? What was it like? I know you can't tell the song, but what can you
totally. So my first music video that I've worked on or created. Well, actually, I should say I didn't create it. I'm working with this photographer and videographer. Her name's Allie Turnus, and just brilliant visual artist.
Yeah,
brilliant with the camera.
She been taking these pictures you've been sharing too.
Yeah,
unbelievable.
Just so good.
Mm-hmm.
And so we shot this video all in like one morning. It was a Friday morning at sunrise, and we went up to Foster Beach here in Chicago.
Mm-hmm.
We filmed there. Just the perfect sunrise. It was unbelievable. Like,
that's so cool.
For being in the city and only being, 2 miles away or whatever.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say I haven't had the opportunity, because I've had hundreds of opportunities to go check out the sunrise.
Yeah, I understand. Right.
But it was so beautiful
Mm-hmm.
and such an amazing morning, and amazing to work with another awesome artist. And so we filmed there on the beach, and then we did some shots on the L2.
Mm-hmm.
Which was
Hell
really
yeah.
cool. So, and it was such a fun process. I mean, she made it great. Like, the process was amazing.
Yeah.
So I haven't seen the rough cut yet, but I'm really excited because it was so beautiful.
I'm pumped to see you in a music video.
Yeah, it's gonna be
Obviously, it's not gonna be like Gucci Mane, but
yeah, that'd be lit.
maybe one day Gucci Mane featuring Glded.
Yeah.
Glded featuring Gucci Mane.
I don't know, man. Gucci, yeah. Gucci's a legend.
He is a legend.
Yeah, I'd seen the top line on a Gucci.
Yeah,
record.
for sure. That'll happen. I'll tell you what. If I get Gucci Mane on the show before you meet him, I'll set that up for us. Okay.
Honestly, like, a huge inspiration.
Yeah.
Gucci Mane is like, in a very roundabout way,
Yeah.
like the production method of
Yeah.
Boy, the name escapes me of the producer that he's worked with.
So many.
Yeah, DJ Drama.
DJ Drama.
I think so.
I mean,
Beethoven.
Yeah.
Don't fact check.
Don't
because
fact check us. Yeah, we're just two
The po-
white guys.
The point is, I like Gucci Mane records.
Yes.
And that production style has influenced the way that I make music.
I love it.
So.
I know. We were trapping out in the Spectra listening to Gucci Mane back in the day, man.
That's right. Still
It's a
do it.
lifestyle.
Yeah,
It's a lifestyle.
still do it.
I love it, man. And you've also been creating some of your own content too. You said you're getting into Adobe Premiere.
Yeah.
Got to do it all these days as an artist, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't matter who's helping you out. You still have to do so many things outside of your realm.
Yeah.
I can help you. I'd love to help you.
Yeah, well, that's been really fun too, because it's been good to, like, flex the same muscles but in a different medium.
Yeah. Well
And it's
said.
also great because in that type of art, or in, like, videography or video editing or photo editing, especially, or just coming from music,
Mhm.
that, again, like I said, takes me 6 months to do, with this type of or different type of art or different medium,
Mhm.
allows me just to see more immediate results.
Yeah.
Like, I can sit down and do something,
Right.
and then, I don't know, I see the final product in a different way.
I mean, you take your time and stuff, but I know you're a doer.
And it's good to experiment and
Yeah.
actually the beauty of it is just being a beginner in something again,
Yeah.
where you can just, like,
Yep.
mess around with stuff that, like, once you know the rules of something, you know not to do it. Like, in music,
Yeah.
like, I know the rules pretty well,
Yeah.
and I try to break them to
Yeah.
break through, but it's much easier when you're a beginner and you don't know the rules anyway, so you're
Yeah.
just, like, breaking all the rules and just doing
I love it.
fun new stuff. But that has been a good exercise just in general,
Mm-hmm.
and fun as well, learning some new software and new ways to create.
Good for you, man. Good for you. I want to take a second again to just acknowledge you on this journey you've had, man. You know, it means a lot for you to take the time. I know, obviously, we're good friends, but you really are an inspiration to me and so many people in the music industry and friends of ours too. So I just wanted to ask you, B-Harp, like, being here now, man, like, whether you know it or not, like, we all believe in you so much. How does it feel like to have magazines support you, to get all these millions of plays, to have this support, you know, to have the backing of such legitimate businesses and blogs and all that stuff, man? Like, have you ever said this out loud, like, how it really feels?
Not really, because I personally feel like nothing has changed.
Yeah.
I mean, especially about the way that I create and the way that I live my life, is like, I started this project already thinking that it was really successful, or it was absolutely the best that it could be.
Yeah.
And that's the way that I still think of it.
Yeah.
So I'm so grateful that there's been more support than there has been in the past.
Yeah.
And more people like my records than when I started.
Right.
Which is an amazing feeling.
Yeah.
To be accepted like that, and to be to have fans.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I don't really feel like anything has changed. Like I have a great team that supports me, and I've been able to work with other artists, which has been great. But the way that I personally feel about making my music hasn't changed really at all. I mean, it's the same way of thinking, or the same way that I attack music creation.
Yeah.
So
I love it.
Yeah, I don't really think much has changed, but I absolutely want to keep it going, and just seeing how far we can take it.
Dude, you're gonna take this far, brother. Anything else you want to mention to the people?
I just really appreciate being able to talk about this. I mean, there aren't a whole lot of medium or a whole lot of like avenues that you can talk about this kind of stuff.
Yeah, it's true.
And about people that understand it. So I just really appreciate the time, and
no, I appreciate the time. Don't start doing that.
Yeah, no, it's a great opportunity, like you said, to be able to sit down with a friend that I've known for many, many years.
Yeah.
And
the up and under. My dad taught him the up and under in basketball.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah, Stu Sherman, great coach, great life coach. Learned a lot from Stu Sherman.
Yep.
Learned a lot. But it's great to be able to do this, and to be a part of the journey that you're on.
Thank you, man.
And it's just great. So I'm really thankful for that.
Well, people, November 11th, Moraine coming out, new Glded. Love the music, man. Congrats on the success of Waiting Up in Paine already, and keep doing your thing, man. You're an inspiration to so many.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, let's do it. Good handshake. For some reason, our hands fit really well together. I don't know, they always have.
So well.
They fit so
and the
well.
sound too. It's like
that was a good
it's a good like cavern we got in there.
Love it, man. Let's do a cheers then too.
All right. Cheers.
There we go.